in our body. So it's managing and making the changes, dialing down how our nervous system works that actually reduces the stress. So it's not actually relaxation, it's regulating your nervous system that actually brings that down and allows you to live a calm, peaceful life.
Are you talking about the wet noodle?
I'm talking, the wet noodle's one of it, but it's really important to understand that, because all of us, including myself in the past, I know that I've said it's been work, it's family, it's worrying about health, worrying about my elderly mother, worrying about money, all these things. I thought I've got a really stressful life because of all these things. But in fact, that isn't where the stress comes from. It's the way we think about it that releases the chemicals in the body, but it's how the body reacts to it that actually causes the stress. So if you can learn skills to dial down the way your nervous system works, you can live a calm life. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how you can actually do that. So I'm just going to start off briefly, because I don't want to bore everybody too much. So if you think that your nervous system's in two parts, you've got the bit which is the high alert, am I safe, which releases all the chemicals, and you've got the rest and digest, which means that, yeah, you can dial it down now, everything's okay. What happens when we are worrying and fearful and things are triggering us to feel stressed inside? Our alert part of our nervous system goes on high alert and it stays dominant. It's ruling the roost, and it floods us constantly with all these chemicals. And what happens is we get really tired, we get really exhausted, we start to get anxiety, we feel panicky, we might even feel a bit depressed and feel burnt out, and how we're going to cope with this. But the important bit here that we rarely get told this, and it's really important to know this, is that all these things, all that anxiety, all that anger, all whatever it is that's coming out, is absolutely expected. It's natural and predictable for anyone who has a dominant sympathetic nervous system. That, as human beings, is how we're meant to react. So it's recognizing that that is normal, but what you can do is reduce that and dial it down so you go into a calmer, happier life. You don't feel all these negative things. Because a lot of people, when they feel the anxiety, the worry, and the fear, think, no, there's something wrong with me. That's not right. I'm ill. It's not that you're ill. It's what you need to do is find ways to manage that internal system in your body. So I would like to share ways with you today to do that. And Stephen talks a lot about the wet noodle, right? So I may as well get that out the way. In fact, I think Stephen should demonstrate the wet noodle. I'll tell you what it is.
I just want to add to that, because on Friday there, I was particularly quite stressed, and I don't usually get stressed to a point where I'm feeling like I want to run away. But I was at work, and Susan was in that day, thankfully. And obviously with the whole COVID thing and having to close the shop, I was just overwhelmed by everything. I was like, Susan, I can't cope. I'm just really, really stressed. And she was like, right, okay, come through. Let's sit in the room. So we sat through in the room, and she said, right, I want you just to flop. And I did. I just flop my arms, flop my legs, everything right down. And I'll let Susan finish that off, but that is basically the wet noodle. So from that, I cannot tell you how much relaxation I got just by flopping my body. So I'll let Susan explain how it works.
I will do. So what I say about the wet noodle is, imagine you've got a plate of cooked spaghetti and you pick it up and you just drop it onto the plate and it just goes psh, splat. So what I say to people is just absolutely flop, so that you're fully, every muscle in your body is totally relaxed. So you're just absolutely just letting it go. Because what happens, if you think about it, have you ever seen an anxious person or an angry person with a fully relaxed body? Absolutely not. We're all tense. So the minute that you relax your body fully and completely, it sends a signal to your brain which says we are safe. because anxiety and fear and worry do not go with a relaxed body. And what you're doing, if you're at that hyper arousal, you're just resetting it. You're switching that anxiety off, that fear off, and you can really feel the difference because you come out your mind into your body, and it's really relaxing. Now, the important thing here, now people get a big shock when I say this, right? I say to people, do that 200 times a day. And everybody goes, 200 times a day? How can I do that 200 times a day? But if you're doing it for 1 second, 200 times a day is only a couple of minutes, really. And what you're doing is you're continually dialing it down. So you're reducing your stress levels. Yeah, it'll build up again because that's life, but you flop and you dial down. You keep dialing down all the way throughout the day, which means that you can live your life without that stress, without that fear, without anxiety, without that mind that never stops. And more importantly, if you keep that relaxed body for 7 seconds, just 7 seconds, the front thinking part of your mind comes back on. Because anyone who's really stressed or anxious or fearful will know that they cannot think properly. They get brain fog. It's really hard to make decisions. It's difficult to learn. It's difficult to even think really at all clearly. 7 seconds, you're doing that wet noodle. Your frontal lobe comes back on. You can think clearer. You can learn. You can make decisions. So there's a lot of benefit for flopping about throughout your day, that's for sure. Try it. It really is, really works. I was using it this morning because I made a big boo-boo with a Facebook post that I'd paid, and I thought I really hyperventilated. I thought it was costing me £5. I got a bill for 200. I was away typing away my complaint, and I thought I'd better check, and I realised that I had made a mistake. This is 5 minutes before coming on here, and I was up tonight, and you're like, ah! And I thought, just flop, Susan. Do your wet noodle. And that's exactly what I've done. So I can come on here and I can smile and I can just say to myself, you know what, you're a fool. You just have to deal with it.
It's done. Absolutely.
Eddie getting all that, which I was feeling when I first noticed it. I was like 100 miles an hour up here. Now I'm fine. So I recommend people flop.
I have to say, Susan, see, since we done that on Friday, we have done that before, you and I, but like we really enforced it on Friday. And ever since Friday, I have been flopping as much as possible. Honestly, so yesterday I was sitting here in my office dining room at home, and I've got lots and lots of work to do and lots of things to carry on with. And see, when I felt myself getting to the point where I was like, I went through onto the couch and just flopped and set a timer for 5 minutes on my phone or on my iWatch. Just flopped there. And see, after the flop, I was really, really productive. And I've managed to get lots of things done by having lots of flop breaks. And like, even if I'm out with the dog or whatever, I'm consciously flopping my arms and my shoulders down. With little Noah, our 8-year-old, this morning had a major meltdown this morning. He's autistic, and he has, if things don't go to plan, he goes crazy. So we wanted to react to that. I'm like, you little shit, like, just bloody go to school. However, we done the flopping thing, and I done it with him as well. And I'd said to him, grab my thumbs and squeeze my thumbs as tightly as you can, and then flop back onto the bed. And it changed him like that.
Yeah, it's one of the things with anyone with autism, the best thing that you can work on is anxiety, because I've got such high levels of anxiety. I know that because my grandson's autistic as well. And it's really, that's the number one thing. If you can reduce anxiety, and all these things that I'm talking about are really simple and they're easy to use. And I've just noticed what mug I've got, and I've been lifting it up to the camera, so I apologise because it's got a swear word in it.
I don't think anybody noticed. You're fine. So when
I wanted to show another couple of things as well, just for the people here. Now, I think Stephen should also demonstrate this one, because I'm not doing it. what we tend to do is we carry tensions in our shoulders, neck and jaw, and it can give us headaches, and we clench our jaw and we can grind our teeth at night. So this is a really simple wee exercise. It's great for this. So Stephen, if you drop your shoulders, right, and let your jaw hang, just hang open. Let your tongue sort of hang out. And just sit like, that's why you're demonstrating. But what happens is, as soon as you do that, you release all the tension here, and all the tension comes off your neck and shoulders. And it just, you actually don't realize how much you carry until you do that, and you can feel it leaving.
Feel that, eh?
Like, but you may not want to do it in front of people.
See all the people sitting with their cameras off. I bet you they're all sitting in their house like this. Are you?
It does work. It does work. And if you don't work with a mask on, nobody knows you're doing it anyway. But sitting in front of people looks a bit strange.
It's funny because the action of putting your tongue out, it drops your shoulders even further, eh?
It's actually because half the times we've got our shoulders pulled up to our ears and we don't even know we're doing it. We're so tense.
That's a funny one. I do like that one.
All the ones that look stupid, I'm getting you to demonstrate. Another quite simple one we were talking about is the body scan. I do this when I do the wet noodle on myself. I also add in the body scan because it just takes 10 seconds and it just magnifies it. So just imagine you are really relaxed doing that wet needle. Just imagine inside your mind that you're starting from your head and you're going to count from 10 to 1 and you're just scanning down your body to your feet. So I'll do that just now and you can really feel it working. So it's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you can just sit there and really enjoy that because it just brings, it's almost like it brings your mind again back into your body and it's just really relaxing. I like that. I do that on myself quite a lot. I find that really helpful.
I like that too. I do body scan with meditation, but it's much longer than that. That's a really quick fix just to really cool you down, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I like doing that. I do my wet noodle and then I do the body scan on top of that. And to me, it's just like there's just nothing then. I'm just on air. I quite like that.
I'm thinking that body scan would be quite good, if you were, maybe for, was it Lorraine? I'm sure it was Lorraine that had said, she's going into work after being off. I think that would be really good to do in the car as well.
Yeah, you can do that. Another one that, especially in the workplace, that nobody knows you're doing is the pelvic floor relaxation. If you think that's somebody speaking.
It's a wee doggy speaking.
Is it? Right. If you think that a dominant sympathetic nervous system is when we're in toxic stress, which brings all the anxiety and things like that, you cannot have a dominant nervous system with a relaxed pelvic area, pelvic floor. It's actually physiologically impossible. Our bodies will not work that way because what happens when that sympathetic nervous system is dominant is from the diaphragm down, it starts to close organs down and all the energy and all the blood goes to our big muscles in our body. So you're actually changing what's happening inside. And the easiest way for me to explain this is imagine you're desperate for a pee. And you're squeezing as tight as you can, really squeezing for about 5 seconds, and then you just really release and let it go. Now, when I do that, my whole belly just goes plop. But when you do that, that is then your pelvic area absolutely relaxed, and it switches off that sympathetic nervous system because you can't have both. It's actually impossible to have a relaxed pelvic floor and a dominant.
So doing that, Susan, just to expand on that a little bit, if you were, sitting at work, if they worked in an office or wherever it is that you work, when you're feeling stress, would that be the best time to do it? Like any kind of stress,
Because everything's about dialing it down. But even if you think if you're sitting at your desk, you could just say you're sitting at a laptop, a PC or something, right? Or a laptop. You wouldn't know it now. Nobody around me would even know that I'm relaxing my whole body now. And it only takes 1 second. So just by doing that, you're going to continually dial it down. But I'll show you everything I used to do when I used to work in financial services. Hands up, I used to go to the loo and do this, right? But it literally just takes a minute. And it was the thing that got me through my most stressful days. And you'll have to close your eyes for this. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. I want you to take a breath in. You can do it as well, Stephen. Everything. And I want you just to imagine, just for a second, that you're bringing your mind down to your heart. Just imagine your mind sitting in your heart, surrounded by peace, calm, and comfort. And nothing can get to you at all. It's like a perfect place to sit. And you can just sit there for a moment, a few moments, just enjoying that absolute peace and calm protected in your heart. And that is literally all I used to do. And I used to be at the verge of what I would call becoming unprofessional at work, to express myself in a way which was inappropriate in the workplace, right? And I knew that I'd be getting to the cusp of that. Right? So what I used to do is I used to go to the loo, just sit for 1 minute, 2 minutes, and I used to do that. And I used to move from this crazy lady ready to blow. I could just walk out and deal with everything that I had to deal with just by doing that. And because your brain likes repetition, and it really does like habit and repetition, that's why we've all got habits. The minute I actually, after doing it a few times, I just thought I'm bringing my brain down to my heart. It was like a reset button. My mind knew what was coming, and it literally just took 10 seconds, bang, that was it. And I could just go out and deal with things. So you can actually, because your mind believes everything you tell yourself and everything you imagine is an absolute truth. Your mind cannot, your unconscious mind cannot tell the difference between real or imagined. So it's like your superpower, really. You can either feed yourself all the rubbish and imagine all the disasters that are going to happen, and your mind reacts accordingly. Hello, April. Or you can tell yourself, you know what, I'm not saying untruths, but you can tell yourself realistic facts and imagine the good things you get in life, and your mind believes that too. I mean, I had a really bad anxiety disorder for most of my life. I'm calling it a disorder because this really was. I could hardly leave the house. And I'm human, so I still get little bits coming into my mind, but every now and then I'll say, oh, Susan, you can't do that. Susan, you're stupid. People will laugh at you, all these sort of things. And I literally just do that with my hand, like I'm pushing it away. And I just say to myself, do you know what? There's no space for that in my life. I might not be the best at anything, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to be okay. And if I make mistakes, so what? And it's like, it's rewriting that recording, because all the self-doubts we have and all the things that feed us all our worries tend to be things that we've experienced in our past. Perhaps the way people have said things to us or made us feel, even when we're tiny children, we might not even remember it, but it's all in this computer. So these words aren't even really my words or your words that are replaying. So if you just sort of say, wait a minute, that's not right, and replace it with something better, you're almost re-recording that message and changing how you feel. And it takes a bit of work. You've got to keep doing it. I absolutely can tell you 100% works. And if you think about a lot of the anxieties and stress we have and self-doubt and low self-worth, it's that little internal voice in our head that feeds us. Mm-hmm. So if you can change that, that's a huge step forward with the stress levels as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. See, one thing that I feel when I use these techniques or use any kind of relaxation technique, Susan, and that is this feeling of euphoria, like inking through my body. And it's a really strange feeling, but I've only just learned that that is my nervous system reacting to stopping stress or to reprogramming stress. So I was always curious to figure out, because way back 23 3 years ago when I very first started proper meditation, I always felt this sense of, it was almost like a buzzing, an electricity within my body, and it would move from here and it would flood down my shoulders, my arms, into my body. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that feeling, but I was always really curious to find out what it was until I was speaking to you a few weeks back, and I'm like, it's my nervous system. That's what I'm feeling.
People think that stress and anxiety is in their head because we overthink, but it's not. It's, if your nervous system is actually all in your body, and by changing how you hold your body, it changes what goes on in your head. Because the repetitious thoughts and things like that, and trying to think positive all the time doesn't always work, because your thinking brain shuts off at high stress level. But if you cannot have high stress with a relaxed body, so that's the key to making changes, is relaxing your body, without a doubt. That's your number one go-to. And for anyone who's in the workplace, bilateral stimulation, I'm going to show you with a pen that you can do it with anything. So just that, pen goes to the middle of your body and you swap hands. 2 minutes you're doing that stops anxiety in its tracks. It's basically, you're using left and right brain. And it just,
see with people
this works a treat.
smoke, you know, that going up and down, would that be the same? Are they getting bilateral stimulation from smoking?
No.
No.
Sorry, Stephen.
That would be my excuse. I could say I'm bilateral stimulation.
Now, if anyone's got difficulty sleeping at night, I've got a thing that I just always wake up in the early hours of the morning before I'm actually ready to wake up. And what I found, it's called somatic body touching. So I cross my arms and put my hands on my shoulders and I lie on my side, but it's almost like giving yourself a hug. But I've always had a thing where I get an anxious chest, and it's whatever it is, my mind must be pulling up old memories, and I always wake up early hours of the morning with this feeling of anxiety in my chest, and it's horrible, and it is horrible. But if I do that, it gives me like a sense of safety and security. And instead of lying awake in my bed thinking, oh, this is horrible, I'm not going to get back to sleep, and I've got that horrible feeling in my chest again, I would say within seconds I just fall back asleep just by doing that. Because what you're doing, it's touching the body safely and letting your body know that you're all right, which then signals up to your mind, it's okay, you can step down now, just safe. So that's a really good one. Another one is hand on your chest and a hand on your stomach. Just do that just now. Just sit for a minute. Hand on your chest and a hand on your stomach. And just sort of bring your mind down to think how that feels, having your hand on your chest and stomach. Any sensations? What the feelings are when you do that. Just focus. The hands were there. How do you think that feels?
Nice. Warm, safe.
What you're doing is you're bringing your overactive mind out of here and bringing it back into your body. The minute your body realizes, yes, I'm safe, it switches off the anxious head. What I normally do when I'm doing that with people, I'll say to them, have a look about and just think, in this second, in this very moment, are you 100% safe? Because at first people will say no. I'll say, I'm not talking about, but what if that happened or that could happen? I'm talking about in this very second, are you safe? And they'll say yes. So you've got your hand there, actually say to yourself, do you know what? I'm safe. Things we never tell ourselves that. Really, we don't. So our mind's always on that alert, looking for risks. But you're actually allowing it to step down and know that it's okay. You're safe. And it's like, really good. It's really, for someone who lives not feeling safe, even have a minute of sitting in their own body, comfortable in their own skin, knowing that they're 100% safe. That is like a massive gift to somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and that works really well as well. And all these things, just keep practicing, because the more you do them, the more effective they are. Your mind likes it and your body likes it. It starts to feel safe. And the more you feel safe, the less it has to go and guard and look for risks.
I've got a question, Susan, and we'll throw it open to everybody else to ask questions as well in just a second. But I was reading an article about the army and the forces, and did you know that they do body scans wherever they are in the world, so they can sleep in any condition? And what they do is they scan their body repeatedly, and they say the words "don't think, don't think, scan, don't think, scan." So do you think that's effective to say that?
I don't think you need to say don't think, because if you're tense, your body can't think anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it really can't, because it just shuts down. But by doing the scan brings up relaxation. But the minute you bring your mind to focus on your body with things like scan, you're taking out the mind into the body. Another thing the army do is peripheral vision.
Yeah.
So you have your fingers like that, and you just keep moving your hands, but you're staring ahead until as far as you can see. And what you're doing is you're stretching your vision out. And what that does is calms the nervous system down as well. Because when you're actually anxious, you're very focused, you're very looking about on direct things because you're looking for danger. So the minute you stretch your vision out, you're sort of taking that guard away too.
It's maybe a less subtle thing to do. You couldn't do that at work, but you can see where
Well, you don't need to use your fingers though. You could just sit and pick a spot and look, and then just see how far you can stretch your vision out to the sides. I'm not very good at that, but I think it's because I've got rubbish eyesight.
It's actually really good when you do it. I don't know if anybody else is doing it, but I can see both sides of the room here.
What you can do is you can go out to the sides of the room, and then imagine you're taking your vision out to the Holy Broxburn. Then you imagine you're taking your vision out to the Holy Scotland. It's almost comes like an internal meditation, and then you're taking it out to the world, and you just make it get bigger and bigger and bigger. And what it does, it switches off what's going on in here. I find it quite difficult, but I know that other people find it really effective.
I love that. I'm glad I asked the army question.
You know what? It really is just finding, there's so many things, it's finding what works best for you.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to do them all, it's just finding what you like best.
Brilliant.
And rub your fingers. What happens is when you get anxious and highly stressed, the blood runs from your toes and fingers to your big muscles. By rubbing your fingers, you're actually encouraging the blood to flow back. And if the blood flows back to your fingers, then your body starts to calm down. And if you notice you get a dry mouth when you're anxious or really stressed, the reason for that is your digestive system gets switched off. So even if you take a sweet or try and get saliva in your mouth, because the minute you get saliva in your mouth, you're reactivating your digestive system, which means that you're no longer in a state of high level of stress.
Do you know, that's funny you say that, Susan, because my little boy, not Noah, Theo, he gets really anxious about certain things, and he has night terrors and that type of thing. Now, see what it does when he's really stressed. He does this, like claps his hands really, really, and bangs his feet.
Well, that's probably partly, it's almost instinctive. If you think when you're sitting at a desk and you're really like, feeling stressed, you put your hands up to your forehead, right? But what you're doing when you put your hands up to the forehead is you're drawing the blood back to your forehead. So we do things like that instinctively without even knowing what you're doing. Because the minute the blood comes back to your forehead, it starts to calm you down and help you think clearer. But we just think we're putting our hands on our forehead. We don't actually know why we do that. There's a lot of instinctive things that we do as well.
Another thing that really helps me, and we'll probably talk about this on Friday, is tapping. Honestly, what a difference that makes. You know, just the
No, I love EFT. Well, I use EFT, well, there's three versions. There's TFT, which is thought field therapy. There's EFT, emotional freedom technique. There's faster EFT. There are different versions, but they all work really well. But I like doing the one you hum happy birthday, and Stephen will demonstrate it on Friday too.
Happy birthday to you. It works.
I know it does work. Actually, that is my go-to. That's my personal go-to. When I've got any feeling that I don't want, I go to the tap-in, because within 2 minutes that feeling's gone. And I actually say I had a personal loss, as in somebody that I cared deeply for passed away, and I didn't think that would help me with grief. In moments when I really did feel quite intense grief, I used that and it actually lessens it. And that it's just nice to know it can help with all different things.
Yeah.
So it's really useful to know.
It's definitely something that helps me, and I need to work on that more. You know, like I always say to everybody thinks that I'm like this, oh, the soul man, I float about and I'm this happy person all the time. But I'm no, you know, like, see, when I'm at home, I can be a horrible bugger. You know, like my kids are like, you little shits.
You're human. That's what it's called. You're human.
But then, you know, like we react.
No such thing as a perfect person.
Exactly.
We're all perfectly imperfect.
Yeah. But I always have these bursts of like, wow, these are doing my head in, and then after it, and almost immediately after it, I'm like, I feel really bad.
Dial down.
Yeah.
And that's, if you dial down all the time, you will not go into the bursts of anger and all the rest of it. And I was saying this the other day, all parents or whatever it is, we get out of our beds in the morning and we'll say, do you know what, I'm going to be good today. I'm not going to shout at the kids. I'm just going to get everybody ready and I'm going to be really great. And you get up, putting the kettle on, the kids are screaming, there's milk falling on the floor and dogs bark, and the next minute like, shut up! And then when they go away to school, you're like, do you know what, I didn't want to do that. I feel really guilty and bad now.
I'm sure you were here. I'm sure you were here this morning.
But that's what happened. But that's because we're all, do you know what, the world we're living in, right? Just imagine that's zero and that's maximum. In an ideal life, we should all start our stress and anxiety levels here, right? But we're not. We're all starting here in the middle. So as soon as anything goes wrong, it pushes us into the toxic stress. I mean, that's how it is at the moment. And if we just keep letting it go, it goes right down into like, oh my God, danger levels. So that's why we need to, what I call, dial it down all the time. And it stops you living a life in that toxic stress, living a life against your own values and beliefs and morals, because we're exploding all over the place and then punishing ourselves and beating ourselves up for being like that. When in fact, it's absolutely normal when we're living a stressful life, but take that down and you won't. You genuinely won't. Absolutely won't.
I think for me, you know, obviously I have stresses at home, which are natural, normal stresses that everybody goes through with children. And then I go to work, and that's like a very calm environment. So that's where I can really be calm. And it really led me to thinking, can you imagine people that have got that stress at home and then they go to work in the same environment, if not worse? You know, so this is why this is gold for people who may be going through stresses at home as well as at work. There's no escape.
The key is, though, is that it isn't the work and it isn't the home that causes how you feel. It is genuinely your nervous system. So if you keep dialing down that nervous system, you have the ability to cope with that in a healthy way with what's going on at work and home.
Yeah.
Because all these outbursts and that are natural. Everybody's going to have them if you're away up here with your stress levels. Keep doing it. Flop like a wet noodle 200 times a day. That's what I'd say.
I always say to everybody that I was always a very, and it's so true, you know, like if you ask my wife, she would tell you that I was always this really calm, really chilled dad when our older children were really young. And it wasn't until we had Noah, because we've got 5 children, and Noah's our only child that has any kind of, it's a terrible thing to say, but extra needs. But he does have extra needs. And some mornings he'll come through and he'll be like, fuck you, hate you guys, you know, you parents are bastards. And it's like, it's totally unprovoked. It's just part of what it is that he goes through. You could call it attention-seeking behaviour, whatever you want to call it.
I don't think it's attention-seeking, it's just how he is.
Yeah, but I get very reactive to it because I'm like, don't you dare swear at me, because none of our children would ever swear at us. This morning he punched the mirror, like simple things, and I just go bah! and blow. And it's definitely something that for me this morning, just doing that floppy noodle with him, we were both managing our stress together.
There you are.
So it's helped me massively, and I'm going to continue to work on it. And I hope it helps anybody else watching this, and I hope somebody else that's watching this can understand that, even though we might appear to have it all together, there's certain situations in life where that doesn't happen.
I spent half my life screaming at my kids growing up. See, if I had known what I know now, no wonder my kids used to call me the morning monster and things like that. I was like, because that was the worst time. I was trying to get them out to go to school. I was like, Wee! I mean, I really was. And I was known as the morning monster. And the minute I was going to do housework or I was getting out of bed, they used to run. And I think I just shouted and screamed my way through my whole day, actually. But I didn't know any of this. Well, that's when I had all the issues that I had with anxiety and things. However, if I knew what I did now, I know now, I wouldn't have experienced all the things that I'd experienced, because I'd be flopping all over the place and feeling great.
That's good though. It's good because if we can teach our children to do that, and if we can teach anybody else and ourselves to do that, what a difference it could make. So for the last 15 minutes or so, we're gonna throw out to you guys. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask Susan? Ashley Ferguson, lost you earlier. This is so very helpful, even just acknowledging that it's primarily the CNS.
Central nervous system.
Yeah. And Diane says, fascinating, this is gold for me to apply to my athletes. Diane trains champion figure skaters.
All right. So do you use visualization with them, Diane?
Yeah, we use visualization every day in practice, but some of the stuff you're talking about, like the touching of the body and things, I've used kind of similar, but it's great to be reminded of that again. And that's actually I love the wet noodle. That's a new idea as well. So I'll definitely apply that to myself as well as my students.
That's great.
That's really good advice. That I loved all the stuff you've been talking about, Susan. Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing. Claire saying that she missed the start. Would you mind repeating the wet noodle if possible? So if I demonstrate it, Susan can tell you what's happening.
Right, Stephen, you demonstrate the wet noodle.
Wet noodle is...
Right. Basically, what the wet noodle is, the way I describe it, is imagine you've got a handful of cooked pasta or spaghetti, and you drop it on the plate, it just goes splosh. That's what you do with your body. You want 100% relaxed muscle body. So you can just lie back and just do that. Because you cannot be fearful, angry, or worried, or any of these things with a relaxed body. It's impossible. You'll have never seen anyone who's angry, anyone who's scared or angry or worried with a relaxed body. The two just don't go together. It takes 1 second to dial down your nervous system by doing the wet noodle. Do it for 7 seconds with that relaxed body. Your frontal lobe, your thinking brain comes back on, and you can think clearly and make better decisions in your life. It is wonderful. It's great with kids because even the name wet noodle, it's a fun name, and everybody flopping about is actually good fun as well, but you're actually making changes. So it's great for all family. We
done it at the shop the other day, Susan and I, with all the team, and we just flopped onto the floor in the shop. Honestly, how relaxing was it, April? It was really good.
It was. I loved that photograph as well. It was good.
Yeah, honestly, it's so good. And it's funny because Susan always says, Stephen, show me your wet noodle, and I'm like, I beg your pardon.
Do you know what? I need to grow up, because I actually say that to my clients. Now, come on, show me your wet noodle. And they're sitting looking at me and I'm giggling like a 2-year-old. I need to get that out of my mind, because every day as I'm working with people, I'll say that.
One day
Show
you're
me
going
your
to
wet
say to the
noodle.
wrong person and they're going to show you their wet noodle. Anyway, let's move
Well,
on.
one thing's for sure, having a session with me it's fun. It's not boring, that's for sure.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions? So Sarah says, see with the eating a sweet to get saliva when stressed to kickstart the digestive system. Has this got anything to do with why we sometimes eat when we're stressed, or is that a whole other thing?
I would say that's another thing. I would say that the eating with stress is more, it's more looking for a dopamine kick. It's more comfort eating.
I'm definitely a comfort eater. Things stressful, fudge donut in my mouth.
I think we eat for lots of different emotional eating for lots of things. And you know what? Think about it. See, when you're wee, and if you fall and cut your knees, somebody might say, oh, here's a wee sweetie, you know, like, have a wee sweetie. Or do you know what? Oh, well done, you done well in that test, here's a cake. So we start to look on food as a reward. Or do you know what? Oh, you're crying all the time, go and shut up, there's a packet of biscuits. Go and eat them. Whatever reason, we start to look on food is to feed our emotions. And even if we're not consciously doing it, it's all in here, in our heads. It's like, because basically I look on the mind as it's got programs running, and we're programmed from, well, probably before we were born, because we can hear them when we're still inside our mums. We pick things up. Yeah.
Sorry, that was our postie, the dog barking there, sorry.
Right.
Anybody else got any other questions? Come on, fire them in right now.
Well, I'm going to show one more wee exercise, because it's an easy one. If anyone here, that's a comfort you. I think loads of people are, Sarah, they really are. I know that I do it to reward myself. If I do something very good, I always find myself standing outside the fridge. It's like saying to myself, oh, you can have cakes now, Susan. If anybody's seen my posts when I get up at 1:30 in the morning, because I do a course from America, so up at 1:30 studying, I always make sure I've got a big thing of chocolate. And that's like me saying, well done, Susan, you're allowed this for getting out of your bed at 1:30. So no, I'm going to show you this. If anyone's had felt really panicky and somebody's saying, oh, watch your breathing, count your breaths, I actually think it's really difficult to count your breaths when you're panicking. For one thing, you've not got a thinking brain, so how can you count and even focus on anything, because your brain switches off? So I say to people, put their hands behind their head and push their elbows back. What happens when you just put your hands behind your head and push your elbows back is you open your ribs and your diaphragm up. So just normal breathing goes right down. So it's like belly breaths without even thinking. Oh, wow. And it works really well. It works really well. So that's an easy way to do it. Plus, when you're anxious and you're doing breathing from up here, your ribs close, and it squashes your vagus nerves, which also sends a signal to your brain saying danger, danger, a red alert, a red flag. So the minute you do that, you're opening your ribs up, releasing that vagus nerve, and it's also sending a signal saying it's all right now, you can calm down. So it's quite a handy wee thing.
The nerve is attached, isn't it, to your nervous system?
Yeah. So it's very simple, helps you breathe easier, but it's also changing how your body is and the signal that it's sending to your mind. I hope that was useful too.
That is really useful. I love that. I think I might use that in meditation classes as well, borrowed with love.
I might say no.
I'll stay tough. I just say, my friend Susan showed me how to do this. Susan and I are always sharing tips and hints, and well, Susan's usually sharing them with me, mind you. Never mind me sharing them with her. But I think that's it. It's about borrowing things and sharing things, and that's important. That there's many people who are helped by everything that we do.
I think the important message that I like to get out about the way I work and what I do is that it doesn't have to be difficult and challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I keep everything really simple and a bit of fun, so it's easier and people are more engaged in it and want to try it.
Yeah.
If you're going to give anything that's complicated, anyone that's overly stressed and anxious, no one's going to do it. They
No.
can't. But if you keep it simple and all these lovely wee tips, people enjoy it and they can start to introduce it into their lives and really feel the benefits of it.
Absolutely. Does anybody else have any other questions for Susan? Because we do have another 7 minutes or so. April, I really struggle in crowds of small rooms with lots of people. I start panicking, so defo will use these. April does, I have to say, like, see, since the pandemic, you know, we've been, if there's too many people in the shop at one time or people not wearing face masks, that type of thing, April does get herself in quite a wee tizzy with that. So
April needs to come and see me for a kinetic shift.
yeah, I think so. We can do that one Friday in the shop.
I could just come, I can just drag it into the room,
Yeah.
sort her out. It's not that difficult to sort out.
What would your advice be to someone though, Susan? That's my question to you, is what would your advice be to someone? Because I do find myself getting like that, you know, be out in the shops and people get too close and it's probably really ridiculous, but when people get too close, I can feel myself going, back off.
I actually start growling at people without realising.
Yeah,
This is mortified.
What I would say is anything that's uncomfortable with people being near you, you've got to remember you always have a choice to walk away. Always have a choice.
No, when you're standing in Scotland waiting to pay for your bananas.
Or in B&M and it's a one-way system.
That's my wee telephone engineer man wanting it. So would you mind if I left, Stephen? Because we're almost there. Is that all right?
That's fine.
I'm sorry, I know I'm 5 minutes early, but he's banging on the door and looking at me.
That's all right. Tell him you're working.
I'm feeling a bit self-conscious now. But if anybody has any questions or anything they want to ask after this, I can pick them up after it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's face it, if I go away now, that gives you a chance to talk about me.
Yeah. I think I'm going to just add, I would say that the way to combat that again would be wet noodle, standing in the queue in the shop.
Or, you know what, if you don't want, you could just relax yourself. But what you can also do is you can do your pelvic relaxation, because nobody knows you're doing that. You could stand in front of anyone, unless you're going, your face is just squeezing. But if nobody would know that you're holding in, like as if you're going to hold a pee and then letting it go, because that switches off that anxiety part of your nervous system right away.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Best advice anybody ever gave me was turn your frustration into fascination. And it's so true, you know, like when you're feeling frustrated, be fascinated and move yourself into that relaxation. I think that's probably, maybe
another thing you can say, the same sort of thing probably is be curious.
Yeah.
Instead of reacting to it, sort of think, well, why am I feeling that way? What's going on that's making, ask yourself questions rather than just getting a feeling and then reacting. Just start to be a bit more curious about it, a bit more wondering, why, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling that? Because it's all, as soon as you start doing that, it's all about taking yourself out of your head.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, Susan, obviously we'll let you go. We're 4 minutes early, but that's totally fine. I'm just going to explain to everybody what's happening the rest of the week. So we will let you go, but
Thank you.
We'll see you again on Friday, Susan.
Yes.
So Susan's with us Mondays and Fridays here on Soul Man Surgeries. We need a wee theme tune for that, eh? Soul Man Surgery.
Well, thank you for asking me on. I better go and see what this guy's up to, and I hope that he's left my phone working.
Okay,
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, folks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
So yeah, just so you know what's happening the rest of the week. 1 second. for whatever reason, let's get Susan's away. There we go. So you know what's happening the rest of the week, folks. We have got tomorrow. We're just waiting on our guest confirming when they're coming. I don't want to say who they are just yet because we're having to jiggle time about a wee bit, but we are going to have someone on tomorrow. Wednesday, I'm quite excited about Wednesday because one of my really good friends, Donna, is coming on, and she is a sleep therapist. So she has been working as a sleep therapist for 25 years. So, you know, when people are having problems with sleep and they go into the clinic and they're monitored overnight, that type of thing, or during the day, she's one of the people that does a lot of that. And usually Donna would be a one-to-one service and she'd be charging for her services. However, she's going to come on Wednesday morning and give you guys some great tips and hints on insomnia, how to sleep better, all of that kind of stuff, which is brilliant. We also have got, and it may not be this week, it may be next week now, but we've got Mary Claire Donnelly, who's coming from Dream Magic. She owns a gym in Bathgate, but she also is a life coach and all the rest of it. She's currently writing a book as well. So there's lots of stuff going on with Mary Claire. So she's coming in this week as well, if not next week. And we have got Claire Arnold from Claire Arnold's Therapies. She is a reflexologist, and she's going to come in and show you some really nice hints and tips on how to use acupressure points in your hands and your feet to relieve stress, all of that kind of stuff. And then you've also got a little session with me as well, and I will be taking you guys through meditation and mindfulness, because meditation and mindfulness, two completely different things. So I'll be taking you through best practices on how to meditate effectively. And when we talk about meditation, meditation is to focus your mind on one thing for a prolonged period of time. That's it. It doesn't mean that you need to be flying around in a cloud with a Buddha costume and mala beads wrapped around your neck with an arrow in the middle of your forehead. So I'll be speaking about that this week and making meditation accessible to everybody. Once we jiggle the diary about and figure out when people can make their times, I'll let you know who's in tomorrow morning and who's in on Thursday morning. But for the rest of the week, you've got Susan on Friday and Donna on Wednesday. Tuesday and Thursday are to be confirmed. So I hope you have enjoyed today. I've certainly enjoyed some of the hints and tips that Susan's given. And join us every day here on Zoom. Same code, same everything. You don't need to do anything any different every day. You just dial in whenever you want to. And if this has really helped you as well, I know that a lot of you have got your cameras off, but if this has helped you, please do send me a wee personal message, a wee private message, and just let me know how it's helped you, because it really does mean a lot to us to be able to help people through these rubbish, difficult times. Alrighty, so take care, everybody, and I will see you all later. Bye for now. Bye.
Bye.